Welcome to Receiving Nur weekly Quran study. We are continuing with Surah 76. This is our third session, and inshallah we'll continue from around verse 9 onwards. As usual, you're welcome to join in with your comments or questions either during the discourse by Dr. Yamina, or you can keep them till the end if you wish. We will have some time at the end for Q&A as well. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please, Sister Yamina, Jazakumullah khair.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So last week we saw how who the Abrar were, the righteous, the truly righteous, and how they were described in this particular surah, in Surah Al-Insan, which is the human being. And so in Ayah 7, actually they are described from Ayah 7 to 10, and we did go through 7 and 8, where we were told that they, meaning the Abrar, the righteous, fulfill vows and fear a day whose woe will spread far and wide, and they feed with food and the captive, even though they needed themselves, they need and wanted themselves. And we stopped at Ayah 9, where we're told that the righteous, again, al-Abrar, feed and help the needy purely for the face of God. And we'll start from there today, inshallah. So we are told in Ayah 9 of Surah 76, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. So they say, the Abrar, the righteous, we feed you only for the face of God alone. We want neither reward nor any thanks. And in Ayah 10, they say, behold, we fear from our Rabb, our sustainer, a distressful, fateful day. إِنَّا نَخَافُ مِنْ رَبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. So in Ayah 9, we feed you only for the face of God alone. Mostly we'll find this ayah translated in the sense of interpreted as we feed you only for the sake of God, which is correct. But I wanted to draw attention to the expression liwajhillah that we find in various places in the Quran. Literally, the term wajh means face or countenance. It's translated sometimes countenance of God. And therefore, liwajhillah means literally for the face of God. And the face, not only in Arabic, but the face generally gives a person an identity. And so it also denotes a person's presence. In Arabic, it also, the words for orientation and directions have the same root as wajh. So for instance, wajh is face, and ittijah is orientation, direction. Jiha is aspect, an aspect of something. And so by turning our face to someone, we show respect and attention. And by turning our face away from them, we ignore them. And so that's why those kind of idiomatic expressions are used – using the term face, not only in Arabic, in English as well. So, for instance, in Ayah 79 of Surah 6, we're told, I have turned my face to him who has created, him, God, who has created the heavens and the earth, as one of pure faith, and I am not of those who commit shirk. Here, pure faith, مخلصين له الدين, usually it's repeated in the Quran, means purely 100% for God only, as we had seen last week. So in the Quran, we find expressions such as to set your face to, meaning to take a particular course, to adhere to a particular way. And the expression to surrender one's face to God, which means to go in the direction that God ordains, which means to follow his will, to follow his guidance. There is also acting liwajhillah, as in this ayah, ayah 9, which I said is usually translated for the sake of God. So in English, we lose the thread that it's all, in Arabic, it's all liwajhillah, liwajhillah, wajhihi, wajhi rabbika. Meaning sometimes understood as in the honor of the face of God, but still it's not very clear what it means. So how do we understand the face of God as believers? I mean practically, I don't mean theologically or philosophically or so. Practically, what do we understand from this? How do we practice feeding, for instance, liwajhillah, for the face of God? Even if we say for the sake of God, still, what does it mean to feed for the sake of God? So the first verse in the Quran that we come across that talks about the face of God is in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the second surah of the Quran, ayah 115. We are told, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تَوَلَّوْا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ Inna Allah wasi'un alim. To God belongs the east and the west, and wherever you turn, there is the face of God. So here you can't say there is the sake of God. That's why context is important, but sometimes it also we lose some things in the translation. Generally, we'll find that just like al-abrar were used in connotation with taqwa, wajh Allah, the face of God, also the verses related to the face of God are also connected to a sense of taqwa. And taqwa is the mark of the true believers, if you remember. And it is the essence of the believer's awareness of the presence of God, the essence of the believer's living in the presence of God, living, which means living with ihsan. Remember from the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ explained ihsan as to worship God as though we see him, and if we don't see him, to at least be aware that he sees us. In Surah 28, Ayah 88, we are told, do not call upon another God with God. وَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ لَهُ الْحُكْمُ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. So do not call anything, any deity, anything, with God, together with God, because there is no deity except him. There is no God except him. Everything is bound to perish except his face. With him, rests all judgment, and unto him you shall all be brought back. And in Surah Al-Rahman, which is Surah 55, ayah 26 and 27, we are told, كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. All that dwells on it, means on the earth, is perishing, except there will forever remain the face of your sustainer of majesty and glory. So everything is perishing except the face of your Rabb. So in these two ayats, we are told that his face, so first we are told his face is everywhere. Wherever you look, there is his face, the face of God. And then we are told that everything perishes except his face. And that's why it is everywhere, because it never perishes. Everything goes, but there is something that remains, and that's the face of God. So here note that it would be correct to say everything shall perish except God. Why I'm saying this? Because usually when you look at the explanation, commentators will say this means that everything will perish except God, which is correct. However, God could have said everything shall perish except God, which is correct. But we have instead except his face, or the face of God. And this is a sign. Remember, the words of the Quran and their meaning are signs. It means they indicate something beyond. So this is a sign. It's part of an ayah. It is an ayah. What does it indicate? Why doesn't God say everything shall perish except God himself? Which is true. So one way is, if the verses, these ayahs said everything perishes except God, yes, it would be correct. However, that would be a conclusion and not something we can verify and witness in this world. Because we can't see God here. It means that there is something, because we need to witness. So it means that it is possible to witness that everything perishes except the face of God. So it's giving us clues about what to look for, and showing us the way to conclude that everything perishes except God. Remember that in Islam, believing is always based on shahada, on witnessing. I cannot claim things that I have not I can, but then if I have not witnessed them, then my heart won't be convinced. And if the heart is not convinced, that is not iman, that is not belief. And it will not move us to live in a certain way, to act in a certain way, to behave in a certain way, which is ihsan. So we need to witness that everything perishes except the face of God. And witnessing requires observation, mushahada, and tasdiq, confirmation. When we hear, for instance, the Quran, at the end we listen to the Quran, at the end we say, Saddaqallahu al-Azim, meaning we confirm the truth of the divine message that we heard. Of course, if we can, otherwise it will be, we're supposed to say it in order to remember to actually do it. And if we can't confirm it yet, at least it will be a prayer. We should be actively seeking to confirm the truth of what we hear from the Quran. But is it possible to confirm the truth of something that we have not witnessed in the world? So you see that confirmation and shahada, witnessing, go together. When we start seeing the world, in this case, this is, I'm cutting short because it's something that we discussed many times before. So when we start seeing the world in the way that we are taught in the Quran, meaning, what are we taught in the Quran? That everything is an ayah. And what does it mean that they are ayat? It means they bear messages from the unseen. It means they are pointing to something beyond themselves, to something that we learn to see and hear. Then, when we start seeing, perceiving things as ayat, then we will realize how they are making tasbih of their Rabb. And what does it mean that they make tasbih of their Rabb? It means they make him known to us with his beautiful names. When we look, we gave the example of water, we gave the example of food. For instance, water making tasbih. We are told in the Quran, Allah says, I give وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We give life to everything with water. We look at water in its lifelessness. It is declaring, making tasbih, saying, it is not from me. I am not the giver of life. My Rabb, my creator, the one who is employing me in giving life to all being, he is that whoever that is. We don't know him in the beginning. We start to know him as we start witnessing the activity of Rububiyyah in the world. The more we see how water is employed in various activities, the more we witness and confirm that there is only one source of life and that there is only one provider of life, the one who gives life and death. And water is a witness to that. Water is making tasbih. Water, with its lifelessness, is confirming that it is saying to us, as if proclaiming, that my Rabb is the giver of life, and he is the only giver of life. So we start learning how everything is making tasbih of their Rabb and making him known to us with his beautiful names. And that aspect of things indicate those messages. The aspect of things, that's the ayah aspect of things, indicate those messages, indicate those tasbihat. That aspect of things, that ayah aspect of things, look to the divine names and therefore to akhirah, to eternity. That aspect of things that looks to God and that remains with us even when everything perishes. The water goes, but those meanings remain with us. That aspect is the mirror to Wajh Allah. It reflects the face of God to those who are willing to hear and see it. Then we can see how everything, being an ayah, reflects Wajh Allah. And therefore, wherever we turn, there is the face of God. We will find the face of God in everything. There are other verses, other ayat in the Quran referring to seeking or desiring the face of God, wajh Allah, or doing something for the face of God, as in this ayah 76:9. For instance, in Surah Al-Kahf, Surah 18, ayah 28, we are told, restrain yourself. The Prophet ﷺ is addressed primarily. Restrain yourself together with those who pray to their Rabb morning and evening, desiring his face. Do not turn your eyes away from them, desiring the adornment of the present life, of the worldly life, nor obey him whose hearts we have made heedless of our remembrance, who follow his lust and gives a loose rein to his desires. So those who pray to their Rabb morning and evening, they are desiring his face. And the others, and says, turn away from those who desire the worldly life. So you see that the face of our Rabb is contrasted with the perishable, transient, worldly life. So it means this face of our Rabb is something that looks to eternity, that looks to something lasting. Based on all this, so what is acting liwajhillah, or feeding people? What was the ayah? We feed you only for the face of God alone, liwajhillah.
Sister Yamina, could we dwell a little bit more on this last passage from Surah Kahf that you cited? Because I feel like it gives really clues about what it means to act wajhillah, for the face of God, by contrasting it with people who don't. So if you don't mind, I just for my sake, and I want to repeat those attributes of those people. Do not turn your eyes away from them, away from the people who desire God's face. And what happens when we turn away from that? We are desiring the adornment of the present life. I think in original, yuriduna zinat hayat ad-dunya, is that?
Yes.
So number one, when we don't desire, what does it mean not to desire God's face? It's to desire the passing adornment of this life, and whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance. So those whose heart doesn't remember God.
Which means when the more we pray to our Rabb and we desire his face, the more we will remember him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then who follows his lust? So if we desire his face, then we're not following our lust. And what does that lust mean? Hawahu, the empty desires, illusions. And
maybe let's carry on, and then if needs be, we can can refer back to this.
Okay, all right. So I mean, that was it. I just wanted to take a moment to go over it. Not remembering God, being stuck in the passing adornment, whatever that means, of this life, and following the lust and losing ourselves in the desire. All of these constitute the opposite of seeking God's face, which should be unpacked further, inshallah. Thank you.
So back to ayah 9 of this surah, which is إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. We feed you only for the face of God alone. How do the abrar, the righteous, the truly righteous, feed people only for the face of God? I mean, people feed the poor and the needy all the time. And they don't even have to believe in God. Many don't believe in God or in Akhirah. So how is this feeding different? Obviously, outwardly, they both are acts of feeding. So something else is going on here. And from one perspective, both are acting, whether one, the abrar, or even someone who does not believe in God and Akhirah, they are acting in accordance with the fitrah. The fitrah is the innate disposition upon which we have been created. But there is still a difference, because one is knowingly saying, I'm doing it liwajhillah, for the face of God alone. And that's why we want neither reward nor thanks. And the other one is just feeding the poor. So what is the difference? We may say the difference is in Akhirah. Usually when you ask people what's the difference, they will say it's in Akhirah, the hereafter, or life after death, usually we mean by Akhirah. And that's correct. But how is feeding for the face of God related to Akhirah? That's the issue. Because we usually, what the answers we give are correct because we are, remember, we have a quiz and answers to the quiz at the end of the book. And so we go and check and we know the correct answers, but we don't know how to get there. We just memorized the answer. So it's correct, but how is feeding for the face of God related to Akhirah? What is feeding for the face of God means anyways? How is this an act of ibadah, an act of worship? Lots of things are taken for granted, and maybe that's what Sura was saying. It needs a little bit of unpacking. So with what we have just right now, what I have explained about the face of God, looking to that aspect of things being ayah, and therefore being an ayah means indicating the divine names. And therefore, if it indicates the divine names are internal, so it's an indication of eternal life and akhirah. And what we've learned so far about acting Bismillah, something that I often go back to because it's so important, acting in the name of God, Bismillah, not in our name. So inshallah, we can figure this out, what it is to, for instance, feed for the face of God alone. Let's say I find myself in the world and I look at people around me. We always say we are all interconnected, everything is interconnected. Because when we see, at least let me say I, and if you agree, you can join in. When I see that, for instance, I see people, when I realize that they have needs, I find that I'm sensitive to their needs, whether I like it or not. Imagine if everyone around me, usually we're not conscious of it, we're not mindful of it, but if you find yourself suddenly in a place where everyone is hungry or everyone is really in distress, suddenly you realize that people's misery is to some extent at least our misery, and their unhappiness is our happiness. Therefore, their happiness is also our peace and happiness. At least I don't have to worry about them. In other words, their needs are also, in a sense, an extension of my needs. And so when I see someone needy, someone hungry, for instance, and I have the means to help, I have some food, for instance, I find myself urged to help them and assist them. I'm describing all this in detail because these people, Abrar, are muhsins. They are people who live mindfully. They are saying they are mindful that they are feeding others for the sake of God alone. And when we are mindful, then we are mindful of where we stand and our relationship to others and to our needs and their needs. And so when I see someone in need and I feel the urge to help them, it means I have the need to help them. This is very important because if we think, oh, I saw someone, I help them, I'm a very good person, I like helping people. Yes, but that helping is a need in me, that urge to help, that need to help and assist people. And if or when I do not surrender to that urge, to that need, that innate call to help and act compassionately towards others, that fitri call, then I feel bad and I cannot make peace with myself. Until I forget it. And that is an ayah, that is a sign that I'm being called to help. It's a need in me. It is not me who decides I'm going to help, I'm not going to help. And when I answer the call to help others and I help the needy consciously as a muhsin, as a worshipper of God, then I realize that I am not their helper when I help them. I am made to help them. And so the compassion that I feel for them, I witness it, I see it flowing through me. And I realize that I am not the source of that compassion. I'm not the source of that help. I am not the source of that providing. It is flowing through me from somewhere else. And if I stay present with it then and there, then I will realize that it is an area. It is pointing to its source, the source of all compassion. It is an area speaking of the all compassionate and merciful one. It is an area speaking of the provider, the helper. It is making tasbih of our Rabb. The compassion, the sense of providing, the sense of help, that they flow through me and I witness that they are not from me. I feel the need to help. So I cannot be the helper myself. Someone is making me help. And then, so I realized that those ayat reflect wajh Allah, that aspect of things that look to God and to His beautiful names. So while I feed others and provide for them and show them compassion with birr and ihsan, as I witness, I make shahada that our Rabb, their Rabb, my Rabb, He is one. He is the only helper. He is the only provider. He is the only compassionate one. And so this feeding for the face of God is an act of witnessing the true Tawheed. It is an act of Iman. It is an act of believing, observing, witnessing, and believing بحق اليقين, the truth of certainty, the certainty of experiencing that there is no Razzaq, لا رزاق إلا الله. There is no Razzaq, no provider except God. ولا معين إلا الله. There is no helper except God. ولا رحمن ولا رحيم إلا الله. There is no compassionate, no merciful except God. So now it becomes clear how believing in God and acting liwajhillah are very intimately related. And they are related as far as I'm concerned. And what does it mean? It means that I am interacting with the world as ayat Allah, as signs. And these signs are that aspect of things. I'll see that everything is making tasbih. Everything is reflecting the divine names. Everything is reflecting the face of God. So these things go together. And they cannot be true Tawheed without these, without perceiving things as ayat and witnessing their tasbihat. I cannot act in the name of God. I cannot act liwajhillah, for the face of God. And therefore I cannot truly witness Tawheed, true Tawheed, genuine Tawheed. It remains superficial. So you can see that liwajhillah, acting liwajhillah, for the face of God, is a new dimension, a new perception of life, of ourselves, of everything around us, a perception with Iman. And the result is ihsan. And there is no ihsan without Iman. So can I, as a Muslim, can I be a Muslim and feed the poor, but not only liwajhillah, or not liwajhillah, because I don't know really what it means? Sure, especially if I have no idea what liwajhillah means in the first place. For instance, I can say, I am a Muslim, and God says, feed the poor and the hungry. So I feed the poor and the hungry. And I go and feed them. And while I feed them, I feel good because it is fitri to feel good. Because for the muhsin, for the righteous abrar, when you are feeding the poor and you are tasting the name helper, when you are helping, you are witnessing that God is the helper. Then the helper tastes good, it feels good, it has good news that now I am made to help the needy, and I know that I am needy in many ways. I will be needy one day, at least in Akhirah. So I know, I now learned and confirmed that my Rabb, our Rabb, is the helper. So this is really, really good news for the human ruh, for the soul, for the heart. And it is very soothing and very relieving. And so it tastes very good. However, that taste can stay at, it makes me, as I'm feeding, I feel good, and it feels like I feel good about myself, not about my Rabb, but about myself. I am a good Muslim, I'm a good person, because I'm making sacrifices from my wealth to give to others. I'm truly a good person, a good Muslim, alhamdulillah. Why am I doing this? mostly when you ask people, the answer is for akhirah, meaning it's an investment for the hereafter. And it's okay. There is definitely a surrender to the will of God at this stage, that is Islam. However, can you see that Iman and Ihsan are lacking in this scenario? Because I perceive myself as the one giving. I am not consciously saying, I am the one giving, it's not God or something. No, but by default, by not being conscious, it seems to me that's it. Like I am the one giving, either from my wealth, or if I'm a little more aware, from what I'm aware that God gave me all these things, the wealth, and I'm sharing it with others. Or I'm not even aware that the wealth is given to me, and I may even think that I'm giving of my own wealth, and I'm making sacrifices. Even if the wealth, if I truly feel that the wealth is a gift to me, but the compassion, the providing, the generosity, the helping, I still perceive them as mine. And if they are mine, then they are not signs, they are not means to the true and sole compassionate provider, generous Rabb. So I'm not denying, but I'm not confirming something new. There is no expansion of Iman. And that's why there is no ihsan. In that giving to the poor, it is not an act of worship. Well, it is an act of worship because I'm doing it in compliance with a divine or command. But itself, when I'm experiencing it, I do not experience an increase in Iman. I do not witness anything to do with God or with Akhirah. The giving is just a giving. And so at this stage, there is some surrender, there is some Islam, but the Iman aspect is lacking, and therefore the Ihsan is lacking. I do not feel in the presence of God while I am feeding, for instance. And it reminds us of the ayah 14 of Surah Al-Hujurat, Surah 49, so 49:14, when we're told, the Bedouins say, we have attained to faith, we have believed. قالت الأعراب آمنا, we have believed. They say we have believed. We are told in the Quran, say, قل, you have not believed. You should rather say, we have surrendered. For true belief, true faith has not yet entered your hearts. So we do start, it's a good starting point, but inshallah, we need to go beyond that. We start with surrender, but that surrender it's actually, even the surrender is, the beginning is not full surrender, but it is a good step. That's how we all have to start anyway. We have to start from somewhere. And so it's the beginning of the journey, and we need to take a step further towards Iman. And that's why this Wajh Allah is so important. The muhsin, or here the abrar are muhsin, as we saw last week. They are conscious believers who seek the Rabb's face when they act in his name, Bismillah. And as we have seen many times before in the past, acting Bismillah, acting in the name of God, not in our name, is to taste and enjoy the manifestation of our Rabb's beautiful names in all acts and deeds and in all events, even when we are not involved. And it is the essence of worship, the essence of ubudiyah and therefore of ibadah. If you remember last year, was it during Ramadan maybe, when we studied Surah Al-Layl, Surah 92, there in Ayah 20, there was this people who only seek or only act out of a longing for the face of their Rabb, their sustainer. إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى. And we're told in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, Ayah 272, it is not for you, primarily addressing the Prophet ﷺ, to make people follow the right path, since it is God alone who guides whom he wills. And whatever good you may spend on others is for your own good, provided that you spend only out of a longing for God's face. So what we spend on others is for our own good. We are not making sacrifice to anyone. God does not need our help. We're not doing a favor to anyone, even to the people we are giving. That giving, it's an opportunity for us to give, that Allah is giving us to exercise that giving. And if we truly give for the face of God, we will not ask for anything in return, because the reward is in the giving for the face of God. And we will see that it is for our own good. So whatever good you may spend on others is for all your good, provided that you spend only out of a longing for God's face. وَمَا تُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ اللَّهِ. For whatever good you may spend will be repaid unto you in full, and you shall not be wronged. And in Surah 30, Ayah 38 and 39, we are told, give their due to the next of kin, to the helpless and the traveler in need. That is best for those who desire God's face. Such are they who will prosper. And then it carries on, what you give in usury, that it may increase on others people's wealth, increases not with God. But what you give in charity, desiring God's face, shall be repaid to you manifold. But it has to be desiring God's face. That's the defining factor that makes the whole difference. It's like multiplying by infinity or by a huge number. It's going to make a huge difference.
Sister Amina, could we also put it this way, seeking God's face? So when I act in that attitude of seeking God's face, I would like to reflect God's face, meaning God's beautiful names, like his generosity, his compassion, and also see those names through me. That, as you were saying earlier, he's the only helper, only compassionate. He is the source of all compassion and help and everything. So when I give, I'm not giving out of mine. I'm passing on his compassion. That through me it's coming. So to see God's face in that event for myself, That's for me. And then also to reflect it onto others, but I'm not there. I love that passage that you quoted from Baqarah that says, you can't guide anyone, and you're not doing it for anybody else. It's not like I am doing a favor to anybody. I'm just I'm just allowing myself to see his face, his generosity, meaning.
And being a mirror, let's
Yeah.
say, a conscious mirror to his names, instead of either we totally not reflect back, or we don't let them go. We don't let the names go through, or we go and, for instance, feed the poor, but we appropriate them for ourselves, and so we don't become mirrors reflecting the beautiful names.
And it ties nicely with the other verse, the verse that I kind of went back to, that 4 qualities of people who don't desire God's face. They are distracted by the adornments of passing life. They don't remember God, and they follow lust, so on. Because, as you're saying exactly, there is the step where we're so lost in the passing, we don't recognize that this is a passing world, and then we just fall into our lust. We forgot about it, remembering Him, seeing how things point to Him. So we get stuck in this finite passing reality, and we think this is it. And then it's easier to be stingy, for instance, when people are starving. Like you say, well, but I also have more needs. I need to do this extra thing. I really feel I can't give at this time, or I don't want to give because I really want to do this thing that I want to. It's cost me money, whatever. So it's always hard to give. And then when we give, it's also hard to see God's face in that. We say, well, okay, I sacrificed. It was hard, but I had to give because I saw the video of people starving, suffering. So I had to give. But a part of me is like, well, now I have less money for my house or less money for this. There's something in my heart. But so we are called in this surah and elsewhere to seek God's face, meaning see that this isn't this finite world. This isn't the ultimate reality that you're stuck in. You think this is it, so any decreasing here freaks you out.
Tomorrow we may not even be here.
Yeah. I mean,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's incredible. Sometimes, we have been on and off in the job, house market looking for houses, and then sometimes you go to this beautiful home. Can we afford it? This, that, and then you ask the person, the real estate person, why is this on sale? And they're like, the person just passed away. I'm like, oh, they just passed away. We're trying to gather everything to get this house, and the people who enjoy this house passed away. Whereas when you focus so much in, when we lose focus, then you think this is it. I'll get it, and I'll be there happily forever, and it's so passing. It doesn't mean, absolutely, as you always say, it doesn't mean don't buy a house or anything. It just means that be aware the dimension and why you're doing this, and in what way are you approaching this. Because if we do it, anything we do, whether we give or whether we don't give, whether we save or give, or do both, it's about recognizing that we are in this flow, and it's finite for a reason. It's a finite world for a reason. It's not a bad world. It's just a mirror. So the mirror is not the source, so it's not going to last. And if we remember, then it's easier to give in God's name, in seeking God's face. This is very beautiful. Sister Germina, this also reminds me of the story that I shared a long while ago. Just came to my mind from
what is
the Rumi, the poetry from Rumi. The story of this man. There's a story of this man walking down the road one day, and there's a river by the road, and then there is a huge, I think, walnut tree. And then as he's walking down, he sees a man up in the tree on the branch and shaking the branch having the walnuts drop into a river. So this person goes to the man and looks up, to the branch and talks to him and says to him, "Brother, you are shaking this tree, this branch. The walnuts are falling down, but they're falling right into water and they're going down with the fast flowing river. So when you come down, you're not going to get any walnuts." So he's thinking the guy is shaking the walnuts to get them on the floor, and then he's going to get them. And the man gives this answer. He says, "I'm not shaking the branch to get the walnuts. I'm shaking the branch to hear the sound of the walnuts as they hit the water." And then
totally different perspective.
and so the man is like, "You can't get the walnuts. By the time you get down, they will have been carried out." And he's like, "I'm not up to that."
That's what we do in life.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the metaphor.
Amassing things.
Absolutely. He says, I'm not sure if Rumi explains it, but when I look at it from this perspective, it makes a lot of sense. It's the idea is that yes, when you live through life, you can't hold on to the walnuts. Even if you have the best home, or even if you have the best whatever job, whatever, it all passes and flows. You can't hold on to it. So what happens is to hear to see God's face.
How do you relate to it? What did you do with it is what matters.
Yeah, what you see, what you hear from the signs of God in that relationship with the walnuts, only with the world, because it's flowing, and there's no way. But when we are, as the verse said, when we are turned away from remembering God, we fall into ghafle. We think it's all about getting the walnuts, and we pretend we're getting them. It's just that when you come down from the tree, you will see that you won't get them. But in that process, we think we're getting it. We're just so distracted with shaking the branch that we have no idea what we are investing on, and it's passing either way. Yeah.
So the next characteristic of the righteous, al-abrar, is that they fear that fateful day. إِنَّ نَخَافُ مِنْ رَبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. Behold, we fear from our sustainer a distressful, fateful, or calamitous day. And so you may wonder, how come al-abrar, the righteous who act liwajhillah, for the face of God only, not expecting anything from people, are afraid of the last day of judgment? And it is repeated, this nakhafu, they are in at all, they dread this day, is repeated, remember, in ayah 7 as well.
Yeah, right before, it's interesting, verse 7 and then verse 10.
10, yeah. It's like the first characters, they start with it and end with it. However, when the first thing is like, how come? Like, why are they afraid of the last day of judgment? Aren't they abrar, the righteous one, who act only liwajhillah, and they say it, they know this is how they live their life? But note that when we ask this question, actually this question is assuming something. It is assuming that if someone's deeds, or, well, let's say deeds, or his life are good, then there would necessarily be rewards and paradise, as if what they do, their life, who they are, has to end with reward and paradise, and therefore there should be nothing to fear. But this is not true, because it actually contradicts their acting solely for the face of God, liwajhillah. Because liwajhillah only means not expecting anything in return. We ask good things from God, and we ask Him to protect us from hellfire, but there is no guarantee. Otherwise, there would be no need to pray. Guarantee means means that the good deeds themselves necessitate rewards. Like, if I do good deeds, therefore God as if has to give reward and paradise, as if these two are related. There is no other choice. And that is not true, because rewards and paradise are awarded by the will of God. Without him, paradise is not paradise. Without God willing. So when we hope for a paradise, we're truly hoping for his perfection, his rahmah, his beauty, because that's what makes paradise attractive. That's what makes it something that we hope for. We're actually hoping for his rahmah. It's a name for his rahmah. There is no paradise disconnected from God. And when we expect something in return for something we did here, it means that we rely on those good deeds and we give them some power, some effect in themselves apart from the will of God. It means it's a path to shirk. It means that we are not truly Ibrar, we are not truly Muhsin, we are not truly doing it for liwajhillah, because remember, liwajhillah is when we witness and confirm that we are not the helpers, he is the helper. He is the one helping through me. And as he's helping through me, he is also making me benefit from the name helper, because I now know that he's the helper here and now and forever, and therefore he, just like he's helping some people through me, he is helping me through many other means. He's even giving me life with lifeless water. So I cannot claim that I did something. Now, where is the reward? Where is the paradise? I did all those things. Then whoever has this attitude, he did not do it liwajhillah. He doesn't understand what liwajhillah is. Never witnessed liwajhillah. The one who witnesses wajhillah can't say this in the first place. The one who witnesses wajhillah is in a state of prostration before God. He only hopes from God. He cannot claim to have done anything, because we do nothing. We only receive. We are only the beneficiaries of God's blessings. And so you see why actually when we expect something when we think that I did something good, therefore now how do you say, like, I deserve paradise. It means I missed the point, and that's the path leading to shirk. I am doing things, and paradise is itself becomes the goal itself. And that's why we are told, the Prophet ﷺ tells us, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are by intention. And so intention is either liwajhillah, fully, 100%, and that's ikhlas, that's sincerity, that's worshipping God alone, 100%. We cannot worship God 80%. It's either fully God creates, or it can't be God creates 80% of an event and 20% it's me or other things. And when our intention is not 100% liwajhillah only, as it says in the ayah, then it is something else is being is creeping in without, even if we don't realize it. And that's the point. We need to realize it. We need to cultivate mindfulness and get rid of ghafla. And so what is it that spoils the ikhlas here? What is it that the ikhlas in acting liwajhillah only, that sincerity, that 100% purely liwajhillah, fully, is hoping for paradise and for God's rahmah? Does that spoil the ikhlas? No. We need God's mercy here and in the hereafter, and we ask for it. Like, for instance, Sulaiman alayhi salam in Surah Al-Naml, Surah 27, in Ayah 19, Sulaiman alayhi salam says, "O my Rabb, ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وادخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين." O my Rabb, my sustainer, inspire me so that I may forever be grateful for those blessings of yours, with which you have graced me and my parents, and that I may do what is right and include me in by your mercy among your righteous servants. So we want to be part of those, the righteous people, the people of paradise, and be receive God's mercy. And in Ma'idah, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah 5, Ayah 84, the believer says, وَنَطْمَعُ أَنْ يُدْخِلَنَا رَبَّنَا مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الصَّالِحِينَ. And we fervently desire that our sustainer let's say, count us among the righteous, makes us among the righteous. So it is not hoping for paradise that spoils the ikhlas, but acting as though in exchange for paradise, as though I did this, and now you have to give me paradise. You have to give me reward. That, yes, it spoils ikhlas, because paradise itself cannot be the goal of our life. Remember, there is only one purpose of creation. We are told that clearly in the Quran: to worship God, to know and worship God alone. And what makes paradise desirable, as I just mentioned, is that it is the abode of rahmah and divine goodness and perfection. So without God, without God's rahmah, paradise is not paradise. And the same parallel can be seen in this world. In this world, we can spend our life for something, for instance, we perceive as good or as a source of goodness. We can spend our life seeking, let's say, wealth. For some people it's wealth, for some people it may be fame, whatever. Let's say wealth for the sake of simplicity. It's easier to talk about. So if we perceive wealth as a source of goodness, then we can spend our life seeking wealth, and meaning that we make wealth our purpose in life, our goal, like the walnuts in the story. Why? Maybe we believe that wealth will bring us happiness. And you can see that this is a path to shirk, because wealth becomes like a deity. I'm worshiping it. It means worshiping it here doesn't mean that I prostrate before it, but it means all my life I arrange all my life, all my effort for it, because I believe it, when I get it, it will make me happy. And is it true? It's not true. In itself, wealth doesn't bring happiness. Only by God's leave, bi'idhnillah. Is wealth bad? No. It depends on how we perceive it, how we relate to it, and what we do with it. We can use it in a good way, in a bad way. So we may like wealth as a ni'mah, as a blessing from God, and it becomes a means of knowing God, of worshiping God, of being grateful to God. It becomes a means to recognize God as the provider, the bestower. And so we share it with others as God enjoins us. We share it with, and as we are sharing with others, it increases our iman, it increases our presence, our living in the presence of God, our ihsan. It increases our living as conscious mirrors of the divine names. But in itself, wealth can neither benefit us nor harm us, as we are told repeatedly in the Quran. And they worship side by side with God things or beings that can neither harm nor benefit them. We are told, for instance, وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُم. It's repeated many times in the Quran. People worship. Worship means they devote their time, their life, their efforts to things that in themselves can neither harm them nor benefit them. Because even water, many times we repeated how water in itself, if it is benefiting us, it is bi'idhnillah. In itself, it cannot benefit itself. It doesn't have life itself. Subhanallah. And so the same holds for blessings in Akhirah. And the same holds for paradise. In themselves, they have no value. In this world, it's clear they have no value because they are ephemeral. And that transience, the fact that they are passing, they are flowing like the flowing water, is also an ayah. It is a sign to guide us to the true source, to guide us to see beyond and see that there is to the source of all goodness, the bestower of all goodness and all blessings, the source of all perfections. And so making paradise our goal in life will spoil ikhlas, will spoil our sincerity. Just like making worldly things our goal will spoil it as well. And so the issue is an issue of intention, but the intention is only the beginning. We have to intend in order to live mindfully. And once we live mindfully, we have to choose each time, make choices, conscious choices to live liwajhillah and to, for instance, feed liwajhillah. And feed is one example. It could be many other things. Feeding not only food but other things. What matters is they have to be done liwajhillah. This issue reminds me of the famous Qudsi hadith when we are told that the Prophet ﷺ says that people are, on the day of judgment, people will be brought, and it's a Qudsi hadith, so it's God speaking directly in the hadith. And so on the day of the judgment, people will be judged, brought, and the first one will be a martyr, and then someone with knowledge who recites the Quran, and then the last example is a person whom God has made rich and to whom he has given all kinds of wealth. He will be brought, and God will make known to him his favors, and he will recognize them. He will say, I gave you all this. He will say, yes. The man will say, he will recognize the favor. And then God will say, and what did you do about them? He will say, I left no path in which you like that without spending it for your sake. It means I spent the money for your sake. And God will say, you have lied. You did so, you spent the money, but you did it so that it may be said of you, he is open-handed, he is generous. And so it was said, then he will be ordered to be dragged along on his face until he is cast into hellfire. So the person says, I spent the money, so he spent the money, and he thinks that he spent the money for the sake of God, but God said, no, truly, you did it so that people say he's generous. Something is going on here. You are wealthy. You recognize that the wealth is given to me. Allah gave me this wealth. It is given to me. It's not. And I am spending it. And I think I'm spending it for the sake of God. And doing it says, as you said, like giving the zakat, giving charity, giving this, and for the mosque, for the poor, for the needy. But it doesn't end but he ends up in hellfire. Subhanallah. So in this hadith, when we compare it, contrast it with the true, for the sake of God, the true liwajhillah, for God's face, you understand that there are so many stages from I gave money, but I think that I'm the giver and I think I'm a very generous person. That's how it feels. I don't have to say it in words. I don't have to think it. That's how it feels. And that feeling will only go when I upgrade my perception of the world, when I upgrade my my perception of the world as ayat. And then I will witness that I'm not the one who is generous. I'm not the one who is open-handed. Actually, I start witnessing that my Rabb truly is the generous one, and he is the only generous one. And unless I witness that, to the extent that my witnessing is lacking, there is the residues of I am the generous one. And that I am the generous one takes to hellfire means it takes to a place where there is no generosity. Because if I am the generous one, I am doomed, because truly, I'm not. Truly, I have nothing to be generous about. So, subhanAllah, if hellfire means they take me to a world of lies where what I imagined doesn't exist. It means a world where God's generosity and his blessing and his rahmah are lacking. That's the worst that can happen to us. That's Jahannam. That's fire. And especially the fire when you know that we missed all that richness and that paradise here on earth before the akhirah because of our mindlessness, because there was that small ego in us that was feeding on those lies, on those delusions, and we never took a stand against it. Astaghfirullah. That's why we need to make istighfar all the time. May Allah protect us from delusions, deluding ourselves. So in this hadith, people wanted something good in this world, and they were granted exactly that, just that. They had no share in akhirah, as we are told in the Quran. Because what they did and what they expected had no connection with akhirah. Even if they say it, we say, this is an investment for akhirah. Allah will give me in akhirah. But as I'm giving, my giving does not increase my belief in akhirah. And so my belief in akhirah is not yaqeen. I'm actually hoping inshallah, and not inshallah in the true sense, but inshallah in the popular sense. I'm hoping that in akhirah there will be something. But that's not how it's supposed to be. The more I give, each giving will be an opportunity to witness that truly God is the helper, the giver, the generous one. And if he's the generous one, he's the generous one here and forever, always. And therefore, my belief in akhirah not only increases, but it becomes yaqeen, certainty. I have no doubt. The more I give, the more I witness his givenness, the more, and his generosity, the more I know that he indeed is generous. So I trust. My iman, my belief increases in the name of, in God, with his names, in akhirah, and therefore my yaqeen increases. So here in this example, in this Qudsi hadith, it reminds us of the area where we are told فمن الناس من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وما له في الآخرة من خلاق ومنهم من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار أولئك لهم نصيب مما كسبوا والله سريع الحساب. In البقرة آية 200 to 202, we are told there are people who pray, O our Rabb, give us in this world, and such shall not partake in the blessings of the akhirah, of the life to come. But there are among them such as pray, O our Rabb, grant us goodness in this world and goodness in the life to come, and keep us safe from suffering through the fire. It is these that shall have their portion in return for what they have earned. So we have to be careful. And here, رَبَّنَا أَتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Wa here is not and, it is and therefore. If when I witness that God gives us goodness in this world, and therefore I will see that he gives us in akhirah. It's not in this world and I'm hoping in akhirah. No. If I witness it truly in this world from God, then if it is from God, God is eternal, then I will see the akhirah dimension. But usually we don't witness anything. We just claim. So it's not coming from the heart. It's just information. And that's why it does not transform us. So this Qudsi hadith reminds us that deeds acquire meaning and value according to our intention and our perception. And intention is an unseen dimension, intention and perception, that transforms apparently simple, maybe they look even like mundane acts like drinking water, even going around visiting places. This intention and this perception, liwajhillah, when we know how to perceive things as ayat, making tasbihat, reflecting wajh Allah, declaring the names of God, then all those little acts become acts of worship when they are performed liwajhillah, for the face of God. Meaning everything is perceived for what it is, as ayat, as signs to God's rububiyyah, signs indicating his beautiful names and making him known to us. Then our daily activities become means to know God as our Rabb, with his beautiful names that looks to eternal life, that looks to akhirah. And that is ikhlas, because we not only perceive everything as pertaining to God alone, but we also act accordingly in alignment with the reality of Tawheed, the reality of Tawheed that is declared, that is reflected in the world. And so, for instance, when we love things, when we love people, we love them for his sake, for the face of God, as his gifts, as his blessings. And so loving the world, loving people, loving things becomes an act of worship, an act of loving God, an act of getting closer to God, knowing God and getting closer to him. So when we understand the meaning of acting liwajhillah, of feeding liwajhillah, of helping liwajhillah, then it makes sense that the abrar here, the righteous, fear that day, maybe even more than the heedless would, because the heedless do not realize how important that day is, because they're like spiritually immature, like children. They, like someone who is immature, doesn't know that how decisive that day is. And also the abrar who do good liwajhillah, only for the face of God, in the form of ihsan, meaning that they are aware that they are not the doers. They are aware that it is done unto them. So being able to feed the hungry for the righteous is a privilege. It is itself is a gift that they are grateful for. It's not something like, I've done something, now where is my reward? If that's the attitude, that's not abrar, that's not ihsan. So the abrar are being able to feed the hungry is a privilege and a gift, and they are grateful for it. Being able to feed the hungry, bismillah, and liwajhillah, for the face of God alone, is an even greater gift. Just feeding the hungry is a gift, but feeding the hungry liwajhillah is the ultimate gift, inshallah, in this world. And it is a favor, it is the gift of yaqeen, because through it we are given, God reveals himself to us, God makes himself known to us, he makes the akhirah known to us, he makes the unseen, he reveals the unseen to us. It is a gift of yaqeen, of becoming closer to our Rabb. And so the abrar, knowing all this, they can only be grateful to God. They can only prostrate to God. They cannot claim anything. And so they are not like the heedless who think they are doing a favor to God by following his will. Like we are told in the Quran, which says, many people think that they have bestowed a favor upon you, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, by having surrendered. Say, do not deem your surrender a favor unto me. Nay, but it is God who bestows a favor upon you by guiding you to faith, to Iman, if you are truly true to your words. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين. If you are truly believers, if you are truly surrenderers, then the ayah, it's Surah Al-Hujurat, Surah 49, ayah 17, it says, some people, many people actually, it says, think that they are doing you a favor by having surrendered. It says, if you truly are surrenderers, then by surrendering, you haven't done a favor to anyone. You've done a favor to yourself. Actually, God, and you will realize when you surrender, you will realize that God is favoring you. You will realize how He's guiding you to Iman, to faith, and how when you are guided to faith, you become aware that everything, how blessed we are with life, with everything created, with having a purpose, with meaning, and so if you start counting the blessings, you cannot compute them. God's blessings are there's so many. And so you cannot claim like I've doing you a favor and I want something in return. You don't want anything in return. The reward is in the surrendering. The reward is in the feeding for the sake of, for the face of God only. And so the Abrar know that by feeding the poor, they are not doing God a favor or anyone a favor. They are not doing the people a favor even, for which they want a reward in the hereafter. They are aware that, as we are told in the Quran, it is you who stand in need of God, whereas He alone is self-sufficient, the one to whom all praise is due. Ya ayyuhan nas, antum al-fuqara ila Allah, wallahu ghaniyyun hamid. O people, you are the one who needs God. God doesn't need you. And the Abrar know this. And actually through acting, when we act and live our life for the face of God only, then we confirm this, that we stand in need of God. I even need to help to feed the needy. It's a need in me. And so I cannot claim anything in return or ask anything in return. I'm only grateful. And so the righteous, they do not imagine that they are the doers, and therefore they don't expect paradise as a price in return for their bir, their righteousness. They know that rewards and paradise are gifts from God, and they are pure rahmah. And so they say, we fear from our sustainer a disgraceful, fateful day. And next, we are told, next then, the answer to this is, and so God will protect them from the woes of that day, and He will bestow on them radiance and joy, and He will reward them for all their patience and steadfastness with paradise and with silk. فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا. So the righteous people, the Abrar, who fear a distressful, fateful day, will be spared, will be protected, will be spared the stress and the evil of that day. So they don't expect anything when they do what is. So these ayat, these passages are telling us, yes, I know you are afraid of that day, and I will protect you and spare you from the evil of that day if you if you do your part. And our part is to be aware of our reality, the reality of where we stand, which is that we are only receivers of the blessings. So be grateful. And when you give, do not give in your name. Do not give for the sake of this or that. Give in His name for the face of God only. And so you say, but how do I give for the face of God? First, learn to see the face of God. And in order to do that, learn to see things as ayat. Learn to hear the tasbihat of everything. And then, on that day, they will be spared the stress and evil of that distressful day. And God will reward them by making their faces radiant. وَلَقَاهُمْ نَضْرَةً وَسُرُورًا, and joy in the hereafter, where there shall be radiant faces. In Surah Al-Qiyamah, we are told there shall be radiant faces gazing at their Lord. Some faces will be on that day bright and radiant with happiness, looking up to their sustainer. وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. And so those who do good deeds in this world for the face of God alone will be radiant in the next life, and they will have the joy of looking at the face of their Lord, of their Rabb. There is a hadith when we are told that the Prophet ﷺ teaches the believer to pray to God, grant me the joy of looking at your glorious face. And usually this is understood to refer to akhirah only. However, it doesn't say in akhirah. And when you become a student of the Quran, then you learn that this hadith refers to this world as well as akhirah. Actually, we cannot see the face of God in akhirah if we have not learned how to see it here. We cannot, we have to see the rahmah here to recognize it there. We have to see the face of God here to recognize it there. And in ayah 11 and 12, when it says, and so God will protect them from the woes of that day, and He will bestow on them radiance and joy, and He will reward them for all their patience and steadfastness with paradise and with silk. So it's like it's saying, you want paradise? Then worship God alone. Because He alone can give it to you. He is the only one who can give paradise to you. And so we can truly worship God only when we get to know Him as the sole Rabb. Because in the beginning we think we are worshiping God, but if our intention is paradise, it means we don't know God. Because we are still expecting the goodness and the joy and everything from paradise. But paradise is itself the blessing. Without God, it's not paradise. Without God, water cannot give life. It doesn't have life itself. It's only mirroring life. And so paradise is only mirroring God's rahmah and beautiful names and the other beautiful names. And so primarily, superficially, it seems like you want paradise, then worship God alone. He is the one who can give you paradise. But then when you start worshiping God, in order to worship God, you have to get to know Him. And as you know Him, you start to realize that He is the only Rabb, meaning that He is the only source of all good. Then we start realizing that our desire for good things, that our desire for goodness, our desire for paradise is truly, truly a desire for closeness to God. And so our attachment for things, our love for things, for the world, for things, for paradise, is transformed into a love for God. And because we start seeing how things are ayat, how they are mirrors reflecting the divine names. And so our, how would I say, nadar, our perception, our perspective changes, our way of looking. When we look at them, we start not seeing the things themselves, but when we see what is reflecting with them, which is the divine names. And so that we realize that our love was not for the things themselves, but for the beauty, for the perfection, for all the beautiful attributes that are reflected there. And when we see where they are pointing to, which is to God, then the heart, insan abidul ihsan, the heart, automatically we start loving the source of all those the perfections and goodnesses. And so everything else becomes valuable because it is from God and because it reminds us of Him as ayah. And so in this world, the muhsin has patience and forbearance in the face of calamities because they know that nothing happens in vain with no purpose, and they trust their Rabb. This is something that I am just reminding ourselves because we did go through it before. And in the same way, for the hereafter, and especially the Day of Judgment, they trust their Rabb and pray for His rahmah. However, they do not trust themselves. That's why they fear that day. And the more we know our Rabb as the compassionate and loving and generous Rabb, the more we fear not being worthy ibad, the more we fear not having appreciated His rububiyyah and His blessing enough, not having been grateful enough, not having been abd enough, or aware of our ubudiyah, exercised our ubudiyah enough. A very, very simple example. It's an example, so it doesn't apply in all aspects, but just from one aspect, only a spoiled child would say, oh, my mother is very compassionate, so I can be disrespectful as I want. She will forgive me. This is what a spoiled child would do. A respectful and appreciative child would be grateful for his mother's compassion. He wouldn't abuse it. And he would use every opportunity to show his appreciation. And he would fear worrying his mother, even unintentionally. And so here, because there is sometimes part of us may say, oh, but Allah is Ghafur Rahim, He forgives everything, He's all compassionate, loving, so go and do whatever you want, He is loving. Yes, He's loving, but when I am, if He is truly loving, why am I? There is a contradiction in that claim. I cannot be truly sincere, because if I claim that God is compassionate, and compassion is beautiful, and it's what we need the most, and I'm seeking it from other sources, other things, other worldly desires, and whatever that area that Isra wanted to go to in Surah Al-Kahf. What did it say? تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا ولا تطع من أغفلنا قلبه عن ذكرنا واتبع هواه وكان أمره فرطا. So اتبع هواه, he follows his own desires, seeking joy and happiness outside of God and the path of the guidance of God, the path of God. So this is a contradiction. If truly I believe God is compassionate and loving, then I would follow His path. because then I would know that there is no possibility for happiness outside his path. Anything outside is my own delusion. I'm deluding myself. So inshallah, we won't delude ourselves, and when we don't delude ourselves and we truly seek peace and joy in the path of God, the more we get to know him, the more we will feel grateful, and the more we will be afraid of not being grateful enough, because we will realize that we are drowned into a sea of blessings. Actually, anything other than blessings is only our misunderstanding. Even things that we don't like, as we are made to not like them and to get away from them, it is a blessing. We are learning something new. We are getting to know ourselves and the world and the reality of the world and of God. We are made to get to a higher level of awareness, a higher level of iman and ihsan, inshallah. So we will realize that there are so many things to be grateful for. Like, even if we were grateful 24/7, it wouldn't be enough. So they trust God, the abrar here, but they do not trust themselves. They are afraid of. We hope from God and we fear our own, how do you say, not lacking. Anyway, I can't remember the word. Kusur. Shortcomings. Our shortcomings. But subhanallah, immediately the answer to them is paradise. And inshallah, in the next ayat, paradise is described to us. Like, God promises them paradise and joy, and in the next ayat, paradise will be described. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون لهم البشرى في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة لا تبديل لكلمات الله ذلك هو الفوز العظيم آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin. Thank you. Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina. Is there anybody who would like to offer a comment or ask a question at this time?
Yes, I wanted a clarification about being always in gratitude. This doesn't mean that we don't get upset with ourselves or with events or with somebody else.
No, it doesn't mean that we are not, or we don't get upset. Because getting upset is also an area. So I always say, and it doesn't mean that we will always be happy, everything, because otherwise there would be no urge to better ourselves. And as we are bettering ourselves, because that upset is an area telling me something. The only difference is that I don't stay in upset and say I'm upset and that's it, finished. And when I see, when I realize that my upset, my happiness, my pain, my sadness are all ayats and all speaking to me, then instead of amassing them, like the walnut example, I'm listening to them and they have messages for me. And I am grateful for those messages. And I'm grateful for what I learned from them. And then my intention is to act liwajhillah, inshallah, with those messages.
Jazakumullah kulla khair. I missed you all. I'm glad to hear your voices. It's like heaven to hear your voices again. All of
Barakallah, Alia.
Welcome back, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah ala salama.
And Mubarak for today being, I don't know if it's today or yesterday or tomorrow being the day of Isra and Mi'raj.
Since the day starts after Maghrib, so yesterday after Maghrib, the 27th of Rajab started.
Oh, so yesterday after
and now it's ended, like now the 28th started, inshallah.
May Allah give us all the barakah of these days. But what I wanted to comment, I think this halaqah was like a really crucial one. And I also wanted, before saying my comment, to thank Isra for putting the ayahs up on the chat as you're talking. It made it very easy to follow. So jazakallah khair, Isra, for this, mashallah. But this topic of today is a very serious problem for a lot of people that I know, where the people that I know that are really good people, that are really people who are striving to do very well, and they're doing a lot of khair for a lot of people in ways beyond expectations, but they are suffering while they're doing this because they are expecting a reward from the people. And sometimes the reward is not for the people to do anything for them, but to be thankful, at least. And because they are not getting that reward and that the people that they're expecting it from could be their husband, could be people that could be different, it goes around like a lot of groups. And they are suffering so much from it. And going back to Maha's also question, so when people in a relationship are doing well, they're expecting well to be done upon them. And I guess we need to go over this halaqah again and again and again, this concept again and again and again, because maybe if we, if they're niyyah, maybe we should be really, really clear about our niyyah when we're doing things, whether even when it's for our loved ones. Why are we doing it? Are we doing it because we're expecting something back from our loved ones? Or are we doing this as, liwajhillah, to enjoy feeling and enjoy the taste of the names of God that are invoked upon us as we are doing it? I just see this as the cause of a lot of pain for people who are doing a lot of good. And when I think about the people that I've knew in my life who were always in this state of pain was not their main theme. Everyone has pain that comes in and out of their life, but pain and dissatisfaction was not their main theme. I realize now in retrospect that they ask nothing from people. They do not even expect to be acknowledged. So I can see where this is, this lesson is a very crucial one, because it has to do with ikhlas, and it has to do with 100% of ikhlas. And I forgot if it was you who said that, or where did I hear it from, that like ikhlas, like if it's not 100%, then it's not ikhlas. Like, you know, you cannot say I have 99% ikhlas or 98% ikhlas. It has to be 100%. So that is a very crucial concept, and for me personally, and for a lot of people, I think it's one that we'll have to struggle with until we, inshallah, Allah makes it easy for us to have 100% ikhlas, and then we can start enjoying everything fully as we're doing it in His name. Jazakallah khair, Yamina. Jazakallah khair, Isra. Jazakallah khair, everyone. It's so beautiful to hear your voice. Such a blessing.
I just wanted to add, Alia, 100% in each event, each act. So it's not, if we take it 100% all my life right now, I will be overwhelmed. But there is only now, and now there is only one action, one thing going on. So I focus only on what's going on now, inshallah. One at a time. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah kulla khair. It's such a blessing to hear your beautiful voices. Jazakallah khair. May Allah, inshallah, give you the reward of all this beauty, inshallah. May, as you're enjoying doing it, while you're doing it, you enjoy doing it here and enjoy it, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
But when we do it one step at a time, if there is, for instance, ingratitude, or you do something onto someone and the ingratitude pains you or saddens you, if you are on the path of Iman, then if you are on this path of acting for the face of God alone, then that sadness also becomes an ayah. It becomes an ayah to many things. Maybe it's telling me it's a reminder. Are you expecting, were you doing it for people to thank you? So it's a moment of istighfar. At the same time, we appreciate when people acknowledge something, are appreciative, and it's a reminder. Then it's good to be appreciative. Then you appreciate people, you appreciate, and then you appreciate God. And we cannot truly appreciate God and be grateful to God without being grateful to people. So I take that becomes also an opportunity to learn and grow. So it's not like suddenly I find myself on the top, that's it, I don't feel anything. And we are not robots. We learn through those feelings. So it's not bad to feel sad or pain, it's what I do with it. But if I'm sink in it, and then that's the problem. Not feeling sad, but what I do with the sadness is what matters.
Jazakallah khair, Yamina. May Allah, inshallah, keep the sadness away from our hearts and make our lessons from it the ones that bring us to gratitude again. Amen.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you for the questions, Sister Alia and Maha. And thank you, Sister Yamina, for the distinction. I appreciate the distinction because it isn't about becoming like stones. I don't care, especially in relationships. I don't care what the other party is doing. I will just keep doing this for the sake of God. If it is genuinely for the sake of God or for the sake of His face, then it is an open journey, and sometimes the other person's ungratitude is exactly as Sister Yamina said, is a sign for us to be clear about why we're doing this. And sometimes that person's ingratitude may mean that stop. You know, like if you're trying to help somebody constantly and the person constantly is complaining in response, maybe if that means that this person is not receiving the aid, the help, so you should stop and not give regardless of what the person is doing in return. I don't know, it's complex, and it's nice to realize that at the end of the day, it's not like be insensitive to how people respond to you and do the same thing regardless. It's not, there's no such formula. But of course, we tend to be stingier than to be generous. So it's always good to keep the generous side open. But in itself, we can't also say this is the only, keep giving regardless of whether people spit on your face or whether they bang the door in your face. Well, maybe if the person is banging the door in your face, then you should go to somebody else who is opening the door and saying, can you help me? And instead of being at that person's door.
It's like trying to grow seeds, but not in soil, on rocks. There is hikmah as well, learn from it. It doesn't grow here, then stop tilling this field.
Because that metaphor of feeding for the face of God, it's a very broad metaphor, mashallah, and it can fit into different situations. And feeding somebody, in that context, the person is hungry and wants the food. But that doesn't mean force feeding, where the person is saying, I don't want your food, or complaining each time you bring food, complaining it doesn't have enough salt, or it's not my favorite food. Well, like it's open-ended. And I like the way that Ali is emphasizing we tend to be stingier, so to be more generous and not just be bogged down with what people do in response. Absolutely, that's the key. And at the same time, as Sister Maha said, there are situations where we are genuinely frustrated and sad, and that is a sign as well. And that frustration can be because of our stinginess, or can be because there's a sign that you should be sowing the seed somewhere else. Whatever that metaphor means. I think it's complex, but alhamdulillah, that's the beauty of the guidance, that it can guide us in various different aspects. It's not one size fits all. The only size fits all is tawheed, and that's surrender and seeking his face, inshallah. Any last comments before we finish for today?
Say that again. Can you repeat the last sentence?
Any last comments before we finish?
Dua. Let's make dua that Allah, like if we missed Al-Isra day, that Allah does not, that Allah still grants us the connection of Laylat al-Isra al-Mi'raj, that we'll all be granted this closeness to Him, inshallah. This is what we seek and this is what we need, and may Allah, inshallah, grant it to us, whether our dua was exactly on the day or the day after or the month after, that Allah grants us this closeness to Him.
All right. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Amina, Jazakumullah khair, everyone, for joining us tonight. Inshallah, we'll meet next week at the same time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.